You hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. So, yeah, thank you, Bahar. It was really informative. And there was also the question about anxiety and stress. And I hope that my presentation would also provide a detailed answer for that, since it is related to assessment, which is really, how to say, stressful for students sometimes, and as they feel pressure in the classroom. Let me see. I need to stop. Oh, no, I did something. Yeah, it should be here. And I need to. Usually, I work with the Google Meet program, and I'm not really, how to say, um, good
You're
at.
not good in PowerPoint.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, is everything visible? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think I can close this window as well. So, no, I want to see texts later. So, yeah, I need to open it, I guess. All right. Okay, today I will talk about inclusive assessment in English language teaching. Inclusive assessment is not about making exam easier. Sometimes there is misconception which I'm going to talk about broader, but we mostly understand that, well, it is something making something easier, but it's not that. So it's about making them fair and accurate, and it asks one important question. Are we really measuring language? Of course, before starting the presentation, I would like to talk about myself. So, I'm an English teacher and IELTS and TOEFL instructor, but I have worked with many different types of learners, so like the visually impaired students, as I said, including, for example, learners with anxiety and having some different learning difficulties. So, and also as a mother of this one of these gifted children, let's say, I have been, how to say, researching and exploring this area for many years already. And so through this experience, I started also to question how we design our assessments. So, what are we really assessing? I can't see here messages, so if I don't open, it's here. Um, Let me see. Thank you, ladies, for your support. Uh, okay, let me close it now. Okay, so because I'm going to ask you some questions here. So let's think what we are assessing. Are we assessing language competence, especially in language teaching, of course, or are we assessing our students' speed, memory, and anxiety? Now, I would like, so there are two types of students. Let me show you. Let's say we have a student A. So this student writes slowly but speaks fluently, and student B writes well but has severe fluence, like severe difficult speaking anxiety and can't speak, I'd say, fluently. So how would we grade the students? So that how do you think? How are you going to assess these students? You have two students. One writes perfectly. One writes perfectly but can't speak. But the other student writes slowly but speaks perfectly. So, have you ever had such, let's say, experience? I'm sorry for, for my kids. Have you ever had such experience, and how do you usually deal with these situations? I really wonder before I start, introducing the assessment. Yeah, we have responses here. No? Okay.
Yes, please, dear participants, you can share your responses in the chat
Yeah,
here,
please.
or you can raise your virtual hand to speak up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should assess them equally. Okay. So, all right. We are assessing the students' language knowledge. So when teaching English, let's say, when teaching language, of course, we are assessing that student's, how to say, knowledge of the language. Okay. Any more responses? So it's usually related to traditional ELT assessment model. Okay, let's continue. Thank you for your responses. So now we are going to talk about, of course, traditional ELT assessment. So it usually gives one format, one time limit, and one-way respond. The rubric is sometimes unclear, but learners, we know that our learners are different. They think differently, they process the information differently, and manage stress differently. So giving everyone the same format does not always mean it's fair. So like equality, as Bahar, how to say, explained it clearly. So equality doesn't work in inclusive classroom. So now we are going, why, of course, inclusive assessment. So here is why it is important. So some students have, as you know, dyslexia, ADHD, anxiety, or other different learning difficulties, let's say. If assessment does not consider these differences, it may measure difficulty instead of ability. So it means that it will not give us the true, how to say, feedback about the student's ability. So inclusive assessment tries to remove barriers without lowering the standards. So we are not making learning process easier. We are not like, let's say, simplifying it, which would be really uninteresting for, let's say, able than for other students. We are just, how to say, as I said, we are removing barriers. So inclusive assessment keeps learning objectives the same. It keeps standards high. What changes is the design of the assessment. It removes unnecessary barriers and allows students to show learning in different ways. So to understand this better, let's look at the 5 principles that inclusive assessment has. So these are clarity, as I said. Yeah, so inclusive assessment is usually based on this 5. Let's say we are going to look at some one by one. So clarity, flexibility, choice, transparency, emotional safety, as you know. So first, clarity. Like instead of saying write an opinion essay, so, and of course, like setting some time limit, you have, let's say, 10 minutes to write an opinion essay about a topic, let's say. So what we are going to provide? We are going to provide clear instructions. Let's say word limit, number of reasons, and structure. Because when we give a student clear instructions, it reduces their confusion and stress, which is really important in assessment. Let's say when students understand what to do, they perform better, no matter of their, let's say, condition. So the second one is flexible timing. So it's sometimes giving like 5 extra minutes can really make a difference. I mean, not just a difference, but a big difference. It doesn't lower standards, like it just reduces unnecessary pressure. So because we want to measure knowledge, not the speed of student, because we know that there are some students that are really slow at writing, so especially those students, need extra timing. But so what we do sometimes, you may say that, well, it's unfair because if one student can write it in 20 minutes, others also should. Like giving others 5 extra minutes can be unfair. But when we have inclusive classrooms, you can recognize your students, and also their classmates also recognize them. Before starting this task, like I have written as in the notes, you should clearly state it that you have 20 minutes to complete the task. If anyone needs additional time, you may have up to 5 extra minutes. So in the beginning, you should give this information to your students. And then when the time is up, so those students that have difficulty writing faster may need extra 5 minutes to finish the task. All right. I see that you are writing some stuff in the chat, but I can't read it. I will check it soon. Then we have choice. Like, sorry. So, for example, in speaking assessment, students may choose between monologue, dialogue, role play, or video recording. For example, let's say sometimes I have done it myself, by the way, to check how this method works. For example, there were students, 15 students, girls. I noticed that one student is really anxious, and she usually fails like speaking in front of others. So while having this let's say speaking assessment, I asked the student to go to the corner of the classroom and record herself while speaking. So while others, for example, let's say just retold monologues, let's say they just spoke, retold the story, she went and recorded herself, and then we watched her together. And I really noticed that her speaking improved. I mean, he spoke to the video better than she used to speak in front of the classroom. So it's really important. Like let me see. So when giving choices, when giving each student to choose how to give the answer in the way that they feel less stressed, so increases their confidence and even motivation. So next, we are going to talk about transparency. Students should see the rubric. So I have prepared some rubrics for each skills. You can take it, or you can adapt it to your own classroom, or maybe you can just see the sample and create yours. I mean yours. So why this, like in traditional assessment, we don't usually provide students this assessment rubric, but in inclusive assessment, it's really important. Students should see how they are being assessed. So they should know how they are graded. So when criteria are clear, students trust the process and feel less anxious, as I said. So next is emotional safety. This is really important in all kinds of classrooms. As teachers, I think we all know it. So high anxiety usually leads to lower performance, and simple strategies like warm-up, let's say preparation time, or predictable structure help students to feel calm. So I have given some samples here. So for example, what can be a warm-up sample, as you see. The others didn't show. Okay. So we want to assess language ability one more time. So as our teacher asked just recently, it depends what we are assessing. So in an English language classroom, we're assessing the students' language knowledge. So we don't need like panic management, or I mean, So we don't need, now let's say, make students speak faster, so which really increases anxiety. So now let's see. Let me read the chat. Okay. Yes, of course, equal, but now I'm going to show you. Let me see. We are not. Yeah, you're right, definitely. Thank you for your response. Exactly. That's perfect. Thank you very much for your responses. Exactly. Now, since we already know about, let's say, this 5 principles, and let's move on how to find the examples, let's say. So, what isn't it changing? Yes. So, inclusive listening. Let's say in traditional listening, we often play the audio once. Sometimes, of course, some teachers play it twice, and we expect our students to answer immediately. Instead, we can let students, for example, to read questions first, play the audio twice or sometimes 3 times. Of course, you should ask if there is someone having real difficulty. If you know that there is a student having some, let's say, problems with hearing or audacity, so you can provide it. If not, that there is no need to play it 3 times or third times, let's say third time. So, and of course, note template, like note taking is really important for some students. There are some ready note templates that you can prepare as handouts and provide to your students. So they already know what to write down. But of course, let's say it's still challenging for some students, but I think this way of listening assessment makes it more accessible for all of the students. So let's say we have some steps that we need to consider when implementing inclusive listening. So we need to preview, we need to ask some questions. I have provided only 2 questions, but it can be more, like up to 5. You can write up to 5 questions. So you can just follow this, let's say, steps, and then continue assessing your students. So here we have rubric. So the listening rubric focuses on understanding main ideas, details, and inference. It does not focus on speed, and this keeps the assessment valid. So this rubric should be shown to the students. So you should explain your students how you are assessing them. So I'm going to share the rubric so you can adapt it and change it or maybe create yours. Okay, now inclusive reading. In reading assessment, design really matters. So in traditional reading, we know that we have just, let's say, type format. Usually it's 12 and there is no space between lines. But if we have an inclusive classroom and if we are implementing inclusive reading, you should use larger font, clear spacing, short paragraphs, and a glossary which helps students focus on meaning. Okay, I really beg your pardon, my son. Okay, so accessible design leads to fairer assessment. This is really important to keep in mind. And when I read this sentence, I think like there was a, I beg your pardon. So here we have reading rubric measures comprehension and thinking skills. It doesn't measure visual endurance. You can have a look at the rubric. So we have like a five scale, like from 1 to 5. That's why I have designed it accordingly. So inclusive writing. In writing, we can provide sentences, sentence starters, structure templates, and linking words. Like not even if you have taught it to your students before, still every time you want to assess your students' writing skills, you should provide them with all this. Like I'm showing you samples, let's say. So you can give this starter sentences for your students, like structure template. How, for example, as a sample of, let's say, if they are writing opinion essay or problem solving essay before, let's just create, let's say, structure and give them as an example. Like you can give it in paper sheets or maybe on the board. And if you have access to, let's say, a projector, you can just show it on screen. And linking words, which are really important. So, and every time this should be provided every time you are assessing your students' writing skills. Okay, here we have writing rubric. So it still checks content, organization, vocabulary, and grammar. Okay. But of course, expectation remain high. Please, consider this one. So then, I'm really sorry. I need to close the door. Yeah. Thank you very much for your understanding. I'm sorry for this inappropriate situation. Okay, so inclusive speaking. Yeah, so in speaking assessment, like instead of saying just start speaking or speak now, like we can give some time for preparation. And you can also provide the student with prompt card. Sometimes it can change based on your student's ability. If you know that your student has some difficulty, or if this is a gifted student and maybe suffers from some kind of, let's say, learning disabilities, so you need to prepare this, let's say, prompt card or some visual support appropriately. So I have given also some sample. For example, this is the prompt card that you can provide to your students. And for example, like, let's say, you can give visual support. Because this reduces anxiety and it improves fluency. I have implemented this in my own classrooms and I have seen the effect, because usually in classrooms we can see that just a number of students answer to the questions, to maximum 2 or 3. But when you provide them with this atmosphere, let's say, and when you try some methods to, okay, yes, try some methods to reduce their anxiety, their performance really improves. So here we have a speaking rubric. The speaking rubric measures fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. So we assess language competence, not personality or not confidence level. You need to how to say, consider it. Okay. All right. So next, misconception. So we are already almost ending our presentation. So unfortunately, some people think inclusive assessment means making something easier, but it doesn't. I mean, it means we don't lower the standards. We just make measurement more accurate. So inclusion also protects fairness and validity. So as Bahar Khanum stated, so equality is not equity. So you need to consider when assessing your students because they are from different backgrounds. They can suffer from different conditions. So we, as teachers, we are facilitators and supporters. I do believe that yeah, this how to say conceptions will help your students perform better and even improve their language how to say language learning process. Next, so we have some like overall as a conclusion. What is waiting room? I don't really understand it. Like I have like some, it appears on the screen a waiting room. Have I divided the?
No, you don't do anything with that. I'm adding. Like
Okay.
join
Yes,
to
I'm
the
sorry.
session.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, so as a conclusion, let's say I have provided some practical teacher checklists. So before designing a test, so it's really important what exactly, well, we need to know what we exactly we are measuring, what barriers are not necessary here. So can the format be flexible? Is the rubric clear to my students? So as teachers, you know your classroom best. You know who are in the classroom and what, let's say, abilities or disabilities your student have. So what makes them to feel more, let's say, under pressure, or what makes them feel relaxed and less stressed. So if like considering the inclusivity of the classroom, I think our assessment can be really fairer. So inclusive assessment begins with intentional design. So I know that sometimes we unintentionally can demotivate our students, assessing them, let's say, in a traditional way. It's not about, but we need also to know that it's not about changing standards. Inclusive assessment is about improving accuracy, improving equity, I'd say. When we remove unnecessary barrier like time limit or some, let's say, speaking faster, writing faster, so students can show their true abilities, which we need to see. So thank you for your attention. I would be really happy to answer to your questions. If there is something unclear, I will be glad to
Thank you. Yes.
answer.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks so much. Thanks for your presentation. Yes, we have some questions here from Rukhshana. How can teachers assess students without increasing stress?
Okay. So how can I know? I need to stop sharing, I saying.
Okay.
To see myself clear. Yes, the whole presentation here was about actually decreasing stress. Of course, so it depends on the level of the students, on the skill that we are checking. I have provided detailed rubrics. So showing the rubric is important. So checking the barriers. For example, if your students are able to, how to say, overcome these barriers. So also some visual endurance, like if you are, for example, Bahar Khan also stated that some students are attracted visually, others are kinesthetic students, some can need to hear the information better. So yeah, when assessing, as I said, students without increasing the stress, you should consider all these criteria, like 5 principles of inclusive assessment.
Thank you. Now, another question from Roxana. One more question. What assessment methods work best in large classes?
Okay, actually, when creating this presentation, I considered large classes, like peers, working in peers, working in groups. But let's say some students also need to work separately, not in the group, because sometimes they also have peer pressure. Feeling that, for example, my classmate is answering better, or in the group, for example, as you know, some students just are really active, but some fall apart. You need to identify the students and see, for example, if they can express themselves better in the group or separately or working in peers. Of course, here a variety of activities are important to be implemented to see these differences and, of course, to assess them, their ability truly.
Okay, thank you so much, Bilgeyis. Thanks for
My pleasure.
thanks for
Yes, so the most important, as I said, is recognizing our students. So once we recognize them, we can prepare everything appropriate to their needs.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much for answering these questions. Thanks, everybody. We have it was an amazing event, first virtual event with you, dear STEP Azerbaijan, together
Thank
with
you very much.
Open Central Asia Regional Interest Community. So, would you like to say something, Elvira?
No, again, thank you for our teachers to join to this session. Bilgeyis and Bahar, thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. And Yarkin, I hope again to collaborate with you and your teachers next time. And there are some questions according to certificate, if you are able to respond.
Yes, of course. You can, dear participants, please fill out the form as soon as possible, because it will be available just 10 minutes after the session, after its closure, after closing the event. So please fill out the form as soon as possible. So it won't take a lot of time to do it. So thank you so much for your participation. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for the chance. Bye.
Bye.